Hello, my name is Dr. Matt Cap from CAPITALISE Education. At CAPITALISE Education, we're very passionate about the Universal Design for Learning framework. At CAPITALISE Education, we've become very excited lately about the growing popularity of the framework. However, we're a little concerned about how superficial the discussion is regarding the framework. The framework is more than simply engaging kids in the learning process in multiple ways, teachers representing knowledge to students in multiple ways, and teachers allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding in multiple ways. The framework is actually much deeper than this, and in this video we're going to have a look at the depth of the framework and how it can be used to break down barriers to the learning process during the planning, teaching, and assessment cycle. Before we start having a deeper look at the UDL framework, we need to look at the underlying assumptions associated with the framework. The major idea underpinning the Universal Design for Learning framework is the idea that in a universally designed classroom, learning goals are not tied to a specific way of demonstrating them, unless the method is part of the learning goal. So what does this specifically mean? If we look at the approved curriculum, unless the approved curriculum explicitly states a way of demonstrating the learning goal, the learning goal does not have to be demonstrated in one way. It could be demonstrated in multiple ways. The second big idea underpinning the Universal Design for Learning framework is that the framework is explicitly targeted at overcoming the barriers experienced by students in a classroom. The Universal Design for Learning framework is not based on the idea that teachers randomly engage students in the learning process in multiple ways and randomly choose multiple ways of representing knowledge to students and allow the students to randomly choose multiple ways of demonstrating their knowledge and understanding. The framework is based on the idea that teachers identify the barriers to learning that students experience and target the framework to their needs. To achieve this, classroom teachers need to identify all of the challenges experienced by the students in their classroom. For some students, these challenges will have a functional impact on their access to the learning process. This approach needs to be strategic, where the teacher starts with one student and identifies the strengths and challenges for that student and any potential functional impact. The classroom teacher then follows this process for all students in the classroom. The next big idea underpinning the Universal Design for Learning framework is that there are more than simply 3 principles of universal design. In other words, there is more to the Universal Design for Learning framework than simply engaging kids in the learning process in multiple ways, teachers representing information to students in multiple ways, and teachers allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding in multiple ways. The 3 principles of universal design for learning are fleshed out by the 9 guidelines and the 31 checkpoints. The 3 broader principles of universal design for learning are less targeted. The 31 checkpoints are more targeted and specific to address the barriers experienced by students to the learning process. The fourth big idea underpinning the Universal Design for Learning framework is that the framework consists of a hierarchy of 3 levels. The 31 checkpoints associated with the Universal Design for Learning framework are arranged in 3 levels: access, build, and internalize. Those checkpoints that fit within the access level are designed to help students overcome barriers to the learning process. The checkpoints that fall within the build level are those designed to help the students to continue to overcome those barriers to the learning process. The final level, the checkpoints that fall within internalize, are those checkpoints designed to help students internalize those skills to overcome those barriers so they can continue to do that throughout their life. The UDL checkpoints that fall within the access level of the Universal Design for Learning framework really represent those 3 broader principles. The idea that teachers engage kids in the learning process in multiple ways. Teachers represent knowledge to students in multiple ways, and teachers allow students to demonstrate The UDL checkpoints that fall within the build level of the UDL framework are really designed to further build on the skills and strategies that students are starting to develop as supported by the previous checkpoints. These UDL checkpoints encourage students to sustain their effort in the learning process and persist when they come across barriers to the learning process. These UDL checkpoints support students to access language because language is the primary medium of learning. These UDL checkpoints continue to support students to express and communicate their knowledge and understanding. The UDL checkpoints that fall within the internalized level of the UDL framework are really designed to help students internalize the skills and strategies that they need to help overcome barriers they experience in the learning process as they move forward in their learning. These UDL checkpoints help students to self-regulate their own learning. Teachers can use these UDL checkpoints to support students to internalize strategies to support their comprehension of knowledge and information. For students to be able to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding, even when they come across barriers to the learning process, students need to develop skills and strategies to support executive functioning. These UDL checkpoints can be used by teachers to support their As you can see, the UDL framework is more than the three general principles of engaging kids in the learning process in multiple ways, teachers representing knowledge to students in multiple ways, and teachers allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding in multiple ways. The framework is actually much deeper than that. However, the UDL checkpoints can't be haphazardly implemented within the classroom. They actually need to be targeted, and the UDL framework needs to be targeted to the challenges and functional impact experienced by students in classrooms. To achieve this, we can add a fifth column to our table. Classroom teachers need to identify for each of their students the strengths of that student, the challenges that student experiences, any functional impact. Once the teacher has identified the challenges and functional impact experienced by each student, they can then look at the UDL framework and identify any relevant UDL checkpoints that could be used to overcome the challenges and functional impact the students experience. Thank you for engaging with this video, exploring how the Universal Design for Learning framework is much deeper than the three general principles of engaging kids in the learning process in multiple ways, representing knowledge to students in multiple ways, and allowing students to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding in multiple ways. At CAPITALISE Education, we believe that teachers achieve a lot more together than they do in isolation. As the African proverb goes, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.